Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rosegold, International Success Coach, and I have back with me Todd Huettner. Hello, Todd.
Hey, Misty. How are
How are
you?
you? I'm
I'm
not gonna,
doing well.
yeah. I'm not gonna say the normal phrase because I don't want to. We should come up with a new phrase instead of jinxing somebody. What would the new phrase be?
I don't know. I have to think about that.
Huh. Okay, blessings to you, right? Like, we're just gonna come up with something real quick. It's not good. That is not a good new phrase for that, but we're just gonna cover it. So, anyhow, I am excited to have you back and have another conversation with you. How's your day been?
Good. It's been pretty good.
That's good. What's made it good?
Um, Helping folks. I was able to um help a guy who was kind of in a mess and actually just plugged him in with another professional, and he got back over the weekend. And last time I talked to him was weeks ago, and he has his taxes being put together. His his wife, soon to be ex-wife, did all the books for their business and didn't do a very good job.
Mm,
So we had two personal accounts, two business accounts, and I honestly couldn't tell you which was which because there were deposits and payments for both entities coming out of all four accounts. So that's just a mess. So it was good. I hadn't talked to him. I was kind of wondering where he was on things, and not only did he get someone to just get the tax part going, but he's also in a position where they were doing some other things that I thought he needed, just for how to run his business, as far as how to structure his business and how to do
mm,
different things. So it wasn't just what he needed at a minimum. It was actually, hey, here's some things you should be doing anyway to improve
mhm.
tax planning and other that'll save him a lot of money in the long run. So that was an easy one, but plugging people into the right professionals is something that is it's fun to do because they need the help, but then it's also
Mhm.
great because I know great people for them to work with.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know it fits with your giver personality. But before we talk more about you, please, for the first time listeners to your episodes, would you please fill everybody in and let them know what you do? What is your business?
Well, I wear two hats, but at the end of the day, I specialize in divorce finance and real estate in domestic relations cases. So folks who need to figure out where they are, where they want to go, how to get there, I help them and their other professionals plug in the details they need, and then really just focus on the implementation piece. I think that's the part that I do that's fairly unique, is really trying to be the coordinator in the middle between all the legal and financial and other professionals so
Mhm.
that the agreements are all written properly so we can avoid hidden pitfalls and then get everything implemented as planned. And that's just because I've seen so many times people come to agreements and they're perfectly legal and they're fair financially, but completely unable to be actually put in place.
Oh, thank you for being the divorce financial expert that you are. I appreciate that. And I know that the world appreciates it. So, can you tell the audience what are the names of your two businesses?
Yes, so Denver Divorce Professionals is the divorce financial consulting company, and Huttner Capital is my mortgage bank.
And you specialize in divorce mortgages, right?
Yeah, I specialize in complex situations. So about half of the clients I work with have simple, easy as can be, straightforward scenarios. The other half, there's some complexity. Divorce is one where people actively seek me out. Estate, probate, and self-employment and others are there. Unfortunately, we don't always know how complex a situation can be up front. Um, People may have had their divorce done, but there's something that wasn't done correctly from a year ago that is causing an issue. So
Mhm.
that's where I just say sometimes we're peeling back the layers of the onion to get down to some of these issues. So sometimes someone shows up with a fairly straightforward scenario and then it gets pretty complex.
I know on the divorce side within your mortgage company, you deal with a lot of loan assumptions. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's really more on the divorce consulting side.
Okay.
An assumption is simply a process that would be carried out with the existing loan servicer.
Mm.
And so I'm really just providing guidance, getting that set up correctly up front with the agreements, but then providing guidance for people to go through that process or putting together what they need to submit for them to save them time and effort. So it's really on that side because on the anything that would be on the mortgage banking side would be for a new loan that would be either a purchase or refinance.
Okay. Thank you for defining what that looks like for the listeners so people understand what you do and which buckets to put you into. So it's always good. Now, I know that you have some big news coming up. You are stepping into the presidency of a collaborative group. Can you tell us what the name is and what is that group all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals is the professional association in Colorado of collaborative professionals, so that it does include legal, financial, as well as I call it emotional mental health,
Hmm.
but that would include uh, facilitators, mediators, um, divorce coaches, therapists, family therapists, reintegration therapists. So there's a lot of different professionals who are in that space. And so
Even,
it's not just a bunch of attorneys or financial advisors and planners.
don't you have a realtor in that group?
Yeah, yeah. So some of the financial would include realtor, business valuation, appraiser, insurance, financial advisor, CPA. And
Mm.
so those are the types of professionals that uh, people need data from in order to be able to put together um, divorce agreements
Hmm.
and either information to reach agreements or if they wind up in court, just information to provide to the court so they can uh, make an informed decision as much as possible
Hmm.
about how to separate the marital estate.
So I love that that group is there for the divorce process and people that are going through that time in their lives. And you guys seem to be like a one-stop shop for a lot of the process. But
Yeah.
how does the general public utilize your group?
Well, in general, people want to stay out of court. So they will have heard about
Mm.
collaborative, amicable, mediative. They can all be interchanged, but collaboration is a type of law that's been practiced for decades all around the country, more so in different areas. And in a few years ago here in Colorado, the Uniform Collaborative Law Act actually defined what collaborative law means for divorce in Colorado.
Mm.
And so, um, not all of our cases are formal collaborative. Sometimes they don't need to be, but there's a very collaborative spirit. So we just refer to it as collaborative mediation. So sometimes people are able to just kind of do it all on their own, and the collaborative process can be a little too much for them. But the formal collaborative process is where there's two attorneys, each person has their own attorney, and then there's a facilitator who you can think of them as a mediator, but they're basically coordinating everything, taking minutes, scheduling meetings, and also acting as a mediator. And then we'll have other professionals as needed a financial neutral, and then other professionals to provide information, whether it's CPA for tax, whether it's insurance for life insurance or other, and then a business valuation expert if there's companies that the parties own. And so and then the divorce coaching, family therapists, mental health professionals, and other people who will fit in there. So the idea is that you build a team of professionals who are not just collaboratively trained, but experienced and know each other, because you really have to have a team that works well together to get the most out of the collaborative process.
So, two things here. I know that you are intending on growing this group with the collaborative professionals when you step into the presidency. I do know that. And before we dive into that, I want to talk about how does the general public gain access to this group? Because they're not the professional providing the service. Do they gain access to it through you? Do they gain access to it through someone else? Like, how do they
Well,
gain access to that team?
yeah. So in general, there's a couple ways. You can just find out about the collaborative process, go search for it, wind up on the website, and then you can reach professionals. Or if you just reach a professional that you're not aware of and they mention collaborative to you as a good option based on your situation, then they would introduce you to it that way. But usually one spouse has a desire, or both spouses figure it out in working together. I mean, people who aren't communicating at all with each other don't go
Mm-hmm.
collaborative. So
Right.
there's cooperation there and a little bit of working together. And one spouse will usually hear about it, get information, talk to a professional, and then get more information, and then look at how to communicate that to their spouse to say, would you be open to this process?
Hmm.
So if you search for collaborative divorce, you'll find resources. There's the International Association of Collaborative Professionals, which isn't just divorce. But then the Colorado, our website is
Mm-hmm.
ccdp-law.org, and that is the website for our professional organization in Colorado. And so it talks
Excellent.
about
Okay.
the differences, what is collaborative, what are the differences, who makes up the team. There's a directory you can go look at to find different professionals to reach out to. So it's a really good resource. And I tell people, don't worry so much about the formal collaborative versus mediation, cooperative mediation, or however. If you want to work together to stay out of court, you can be respectful of each other. You want to do this amicably. You don't want to burn down every bridge. I
Right.
just say be fair to each other and make sure you protect yourself from mistakes. Then all of that will carry you through to a very good outcome. And
Hmm.
whether we use formal collaborative or whether we use a cooperative mediation process that's very similar but different for a variety of reasons will really be specific to your case and your situation. And based on the professionals, once they can get information and understand your situation, then they can show you why it may or may not be as appropriate. But I just say, don't worry about that. That's really can be more semantics at the end of the day. The biggest piece is if you want to stay out of court, work with your spouse, come to your own agreements, stay in control of the process, have everything be confidential, and get way better outcomes. If that's what you want, then I'd say talk to someone who's collaboratively trained, because they'll have all those skill sets. Or whether you go collaborative or not, they'll understand the difference and the benefits,
Hmm.
and they'll have all of the tools to reduce conflict, seek outcomes that are better for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everyone meaning both of the spouses and their kids and family and everything else, and you just wind up with a much better position. So that's where I think the biggest piece is it's a great resource for people to just start to understand there's a ton of options that
Mm-hmm.
people aren't aware of about um, how to curate and craft a solution that will work for their family.
And to pull together the right team. So what I'm hearing from you is that people can go to CCDP's website and look at the list of professionals that are a member of it. So you're on there, correct?
Yes.
All right. That's awesome. So that's how the general public can get in touch with this team that you guys have and this growing team, right? So it's
Well, there's at any given time, our professional membership is between 80 and 100 members. Um, Not everyone's profiles are all fully updated on the website at any given time, but I say start there to find some professionals, look at their bios, check out their web pages, and then just reach out.
Mhm.
So for example, I had a lady who reached out to me last year and just wasn't sure about the process, wanted to find out more. Then was, I think this is a good fit for me, but let me understand more and then understand how to communicate this to my spouse. And then over time, um, I put together a list of professionals that I thought would be a good fit. Then she screened them out of 10. She went through and looked at them with her spouse. They
Mhm.
ended up um, interviewing a couple each, picking one, and then once they had their pair of professional attorneys picked, um, even though I'm a financial, I wasn't a good fit for this situation. It's a unique situation for their circumstances where they really need more heavily on tax and business aspects than they do a traditional approach. So I actually was recommending another financial professional who I've worked with for years on the board of CCDP, who's a member.
Mm.
She's a better fit. And then they picked a neutral who I know as well, who's a very good attorney and neutral in the middle. So just to facilitate everything. So um, I help them put together the solution for her. She still wants me to be her sounding board and kind of personal, professional guide, although
Mhm.
I'm not doing like this task to calculate these things and these taxes or whatever that may be. I'm
Mhm.
simply in a position where just to help continue to guide her through the process. And she doesn't have anyone to bounce any ideas off of, or just have someone listen and say that makes sense, or what about this? So she's going to be getting a lot of that from the neutral team and her attorney, but she specifically said, I want you to be there for me if needed. And so
Right.
that's where I'm just like, great, let's come up with a solution that works for everyone. So I
Mhm.
will be involved in giving some information. And because I know everyone on the team,
Mhm.
that if there is something that needs to be said, or we want to figure out some things with the house, because at the end of the day, the house is a small piece of the overall problem to solve of how to separate the marital estate. And so I know that when it comes down to figuring out that piece, I'll be able to give her good advice. They'll figure out what to do, whether they're going to keep it or perhaps sell it. But I also know that the team will know that they're going to have what they need in order to put the agreements together. So everything gets implemented as planned and doesn't create a problem at the last minute after they've spent all this time going through and crafting all the other parts.
Thank you for that story and the example of how the CCDP can work for the public that are needing uh, the service. And a lot of people don't understand what they need when they're going through a divorce. So you guys, please just go to the website and start looking, start educating yourself, start seeing what other professionals are a part of this organization so that you're understanding that there are more parts to the divorce process. There are more professionals out there than what people are aware of.
Yeah.
So the general public knows, okay, cool, I'm getting a divorce. Attorneys, that's all they know. They don't know about
Well, and
everybody else.
they think it's go to court or do it on my own. And there's
Right.
all these options in the middle. They
Hmm.
think that if I hire an attorney, I have to go to court, or if I hire an attorney, they have to control everything. And while some will, there's a lot of other professionals, I call it letting you drive the car. So they'll let you drive the car if that's what you want to do and it's productive. And but some attorneys won't. And I
Hmm.
think that that example is really one that speaks to how the collaborative community works, which isn't, oh, they called me, I need to be involved in this. It's
Right.
what is their problem? What do they need to solve this problem? Who would be a good fit for that? And if that includes me, okay. And if it doesn't, okay.
Okay.
Like, what do they need? And that is one of the things that a lot of professionals struggle with when it comes to collaborative is it, and I had this conversation with someone yesterday or Saturday. I was volunteering at the mock trial and talking with someone, and I'm not an attorney. I was the only non-attorney there, and they're asking about Colorado Collaborative, and they're just like, yeah, I've looked at that, but and the issue is it takes a lot of trust among the professionals to do collaborative, and that keeps a lot of attorneys away from it because there's not a lot of trust among them in general. And the other is you have to have people that you can communicate with, work with, and so that's why I tell so many people just getting involved in the community from a professional perspective and just learning the skills of de-escalating, learning how it can come out well if people drive the car themselves and you're just in the back seat, how you can use collaborative as a tool, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a cooperative mediation that's very similar to collaborative. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And if you just learn those skills, build those relationships where you earn trust and now have a community of people to work with, well, all of a sudden, you'll start doing more of these cooperative mediations where you'll give the clients the ability to do some things on their own because it is a good idea and a good outcome in the right situation.
Mhm.
And and then be in a position where all of a sudden you now have this community. It doesn't happen overnight, but for those people who say, gosh, I'd love to do it, but I don't ever have those cases. Well, all of a sudden they'll start happening just organically because you're hanging out with the right folks and and the people who are like-minded, and then you'll start
Mhm.
attracting those types of clients too. So
Right.
a lot
Uh,
of people get a lot of advice from a lot of friends and family when they're getting a divorce. And if all their friends and family had horrible argumentative divorces where they wound up in court, well, the professionals and they're going to refer you to, and all of their advice is going to be based on that experience. And that's frankly not the normal experience. Far more people come to agreements out of court than do in court. And so a lot of people just don't know that. And not everyone
Right.
advertises it. So
Right. So I love that we're doing the series of interviews that we have because it's so important for the general public to know what's out there and to know that you guys exist and to know that you exist, like your business, but then also Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals, and let them know that they exist. So you touched on something that I want to go back to. You started talking about other professionals, maybe attorneys that want to do more collaborative. If I know we're talking about growing your group. So as you step into the presidency of CCDP, your aim is to grow the group and to grow the ecosystem of all the collaborative people. If somebody is interested, if any of the listeners are interested in becoming a part of this group, can they reach out to you? Who do they reach out to?
absolutely. They can reach out to me. I think a best place to start for any professional who's interested in this would be to look at the website and just see if
Mhm.
anyone they know is involved. They may have people they know already who are involved, and that would be a great resource to reach out to. Obviously, they can reach out to me or any other professionals. I think board members are typically a little bit more in a position of addressing these types of questions than someone who may have just joined recently, although their perspective is always great as well. So any professionals that are interested, and again, even if they just want to learn these skill sets, we do trainings throughout the year. Some of them are done in conjunction with the CBA CLE, that's the Bar Association Continuing Law Education. Some of them are done on our own, but you get CLE credits for that. So we'll have introduction trainings, and then we also will do advanced trainings through the year. And that's a great way. I mean, if you want to do collaborative, the UCLA, the Universal Collaborative Law in Colorado states that you have to be collaboratively trained as a professional. But at the end of the day, I tell people show up, learn the skills, hang out, make the connections, and then all of a sudden you'll be in a community of people that will start to um, help you be a member, part of the community. That's how I got involved. A guy just said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this group?" And this was back in like 2017. And no, but it sounds like I should. And then here we are 8 years later, and I've been on the board for a few years. I'm current vice president, and in a few months will be the president, and it's been a great experience.
Mm. That's wonderful. Now I can speak to the room because I was a speaker and I came to visit and I got to meet a lot of people in person and online. So that was a lot of fun. And, everybody in the room, they seem to have the right intentions and they seem to be good people and knowledgeable and experts in their field. So you're not just taking Todd's word for it. I've been there too. It was,
Well, but that's a great
yeah.
example of the types of that was our monthly member meeting where you spoke on how to deal with people who are really struggling with high emotion and particularly anger. And
Hmm.
that's so common. And at the same time, it's incredibly profitable. You'll see a lot of attorneys who will prey upon that. And conflict is profitable for attorneys. And not everyone's like that, but it's really hard to say that that's not what it's like when you see some situations. So
Hmm.
I just think that's the type of stuff we do. We have great professionals like you who come in to share and give us tools that we can use to help clients. And whether we end up working with them or not, just having the ability to communicate with someone like that, even if they end up working with someone else, just you can improve their position of where they are, but you can also help out the clients who do want to work with you
Hmm.
and help out your professional teams and other professionals you work with. So that's a great example of what we do, and how it's not all a bunch of legal or financial stuff that we're doing trainings on. So much of it is communication and
Hmm.
de-escalation and how to reach
Right.
agreements.
Yeah, it's so important. And I know that it's a good refresher for the community of, hey, how are you managing your responses to the emotions of your clients? Because that's just as important as being able to de-escalate their anger or their emotion
Yeah.
or whatever it is that they're facing. So it was fun to do that training with your group. So I appreciate the opportunity. And it's always something that's very needed, but a lot of the times overlooked.
Yeah. And that's why having our just different perspectives in the room, a lot
Hmm.
of the attorneys have mentioned when we've brought in people who aren't legal,
Hmm.
they say, I wouldn't have thought about that as a speaker or having that person as a speaker, or that as a topic, but that was really helpful. Like
Hmm.
some of your simple little disruption question,
Right.
how to ask a question to get someone to just disrupt that pattern of behavior that is so intensifying and get them to just step back for a moment and doing so in a very gentle way, as opposed to a lot of people, especially A-type personalities, and they're either going to sit back and just kind of let it go or try to cut it off or overpower it. And
Mm-hmm.
that can be so destructive, not just to the trust with a professional, but also just it doesn't give the person what they really need.
Hmm.
And
It's true.
they can't even get what they need oftentimes if they're in that high of an emotional state. So
Hmm.
it's really just a skill set that we can use not just professionally, but personally and everywhere else too. So that in a nutshell is a lot of what we do within our group. And that's why having those different perspectives and being able to bring in different speakers is so important and frankly, educational and fun. It'd get pretty boring if we just talked about one thing all the time.
I know, right? So thank you for providing that service for your people, for the members of CCDP. And it was a lot of fun to be in the room and to just bring that perspective because a lot of attorneys don't think that way. They have a very specific expertise and their brain works a very specific way. So I come in with a little bit of a different perspective. My mind works differently, right? And because it works differently, it gives people the awareness. So I've done this training with other law firms and it lands
Yeah.
every single time, because that's not their skill set.
Yep.
And we bring that emotional awareness back into the practice or bring it into the practice for the first time into the firm. And it's amazing. It's life changing for some of these attorneys of, oh, wow, okay, this is how we deal with it. Yes, you can set these boundaries. Yes, you can ask these questions. But I also come at it from a business perspective. So, working as a success coach with business owners, It's very important to me for business owners to understand that this affects your business for years to come. If you don't successfully manage the emotions of the client and yourself, you're kind of having to reinvent the wheel all the time. But if you are able to successfully de escalate a situation and not react emotionally yourself, you could change that person's life forever. And they're going to be the biggest mouthpiece for you. They're going to send you the most clients. Like, it makes business easier because you're getting referrals and word of mouth so much easier from these people that were like, wow, this person really treated me like a human being and cared about my fear and cared about the situation, cared about the financial stress that I'm dealing with. They cared about all these things that caused me to overreact emotionally, did not take it personally and talked me off a ledge. That is valuable to the longevity and the richness of somebody's business. And attorneys just
Well, and
don't think
that's
about that.
being able to endure. There's so many people who can't do family law for a long period of time because they don't have those skill sets and they're constantly in these high conflict situations. And um, I had one attorney who's been involved in the collaborative community for years who was kind enough to meet with me right when I became a member, and he said, I see it as something I had to do because it fulfills me, whereas traditional approach just takes away. And I couldn't
Mhm.
have had a career of, 20, 30 years doing this because I couldn't have survived it personally. And and then last year, I was at an event and I had an attorney ask me like, how do I become a CPA? How long does that take? And I'm like, are you thinking of doing this along with it? No,
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, come over to the collaborative side. I can't. I simply have to fight and win. So I just need to go do something where I'm not dealing with people and I'm dealing with numbers.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I've known this person for several years, haven't like done a lot of cases because again, they're always in the high litigation world. Not as much in my arena and with my, network of folks, but it was just like that was so revealing. And this was at a fundraising event. I mean, this was totally, there was a bunch of attorney folks and stuff there. That's
Hmm.
why we were both there. But at the end of the day, it was just like this shock of like, good grief, like, wow, what must that be like? So I really enjoy what I do, but I don't appreciate how much that matters until like you see someone in that state where they're highly successful and like can't stand it.
Hmm. Yeah,
They just can't stand what they're doing.
right. And they're not effectively managing their emotions, the stress of it, like all those things. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we have to remember that we're still people and the people that we're working with are still people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on, and we don't have time for me to do that. So I did have one more question for you before we wrap up. For Colorado Collaborative, okay, CCDP, tell me again what it means. Colorado,
Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals.
thank you. Uh, my mind just jumbled up all the words. So for people that want to reach out to you guys and utilize maybe some of the resources and the people that you have as members, is it for in-state only for people in Colorado or for people outside of the state? Can they
Um,
utilize you guys?
we have we have professional. So like from what I do from a divorce consulting perspective, I can do it anywhere, but I'm not always going to be sure about what some of the implications are from a financial perspective of state statutes. So, depending upon what people need for certain places, I will help them. Sometimes it's just general advice. So I'm just really giving a little bit of guidance and then how to connect
Mhm.
into professionals in their area. My process for how to
Perfect.
guide a couple through to picking their own attorneys and doing it themselves together transparently, that's the same advice no matter where you are. So there's certain things that are just universal, and there's certain things that would matter. So we have some attorneys and other professionals who are licensed in multiple states. In general, I would say it's Colorado. Many states have collaborative organizations. Some of that are the most California, Washington, Texas, Florida have very big collaborative communities, and then there's a bunch everywhere else in between. So just how mature those organizations are and how long they've been around does vary state by state. But and then on the lending side, lending is by state. And right now I'm just licensed in Colorado, but I have professionals around the country or who can handle things around the country with both sides. And so that's one other area I think is if you go to the site and look at um, things. It'll just give you a lot of information in general about how to approach the path of your divorce so that you can do this out of court. There are a ton of options. You can stay in control. You can have confidentiality, reach your own agreements, and have you working with your spouse to get the best outcomes and getting the support as needed from professionals. That's universal. So you can get those ideas in that process and how to make that happen. And then finding the professionals in your area is to me like a little bit easier. If you can do the first part to work with your spouse to realize this is a better way
Mhm.
and how the options are and how you might do that, what the options are and how you might do that, finding the professionals will be easy. The hardest part is to decide that you want to do this together and understanding the benefits and understanding the options. And so to me, that's really the bigger part. I actually have a person who called me just the other day, and he's here. She's in California. They've been living that way for a few years. And I just said, look, there's going to be different things that apply depending upon where you file. So I think for a few reasons, I thought it made sense that they would do so here because that's where they were primarily. But based on their current situation, they could do it in either state. So it's really, if you want to go through this process, that's number one. Then start to pick professionals who will support you in that process and get their understanding from the differences between if you do it in Colorado versus California, because there will be some differences for sure. I know of them, but I'm not an attorney, so I don't advise on that. I just say, here are the types of differences that are there. Here are the questions that you want to ask, but
Mhm.
talk to your spouse first about going through this collaborative, cooperative process, whether it's collaborative mediation or formal collaboration. There's a robust community in both Colorado and California with collaboration. So it's not
Mhm.
like you're picking one or the other based on where you are. And then there's going to be these other differences between states. And I know a lot of what those differences are, but again, that's not exactly where my role would be. So there are times when I'm guiding people
Mhm.
as like I kind of think of it like a mountain guide, someone climbing Everest, where there are
The
times
divorce
when
Sherpa.
there are times when I'll guide and I'll just say, go here. There's other times where I'm Sherpa and I'm carrying everything and crunching the numbers and doing all the work.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah,
do
that's cool.
both for people. And oftentimes I just give people some a consultation perspective and send them on their way with good information and advice of how to move forward.
Well,
Because
thank
sometimes they're
you.
just not ready yet.
Understood. So, what I get a sense of is providing peace of mind for the audience. So, thank you for sharing all this information. Thank you for helping them understand what's available to them because most people just don't know. The general public doesn't know. It's
Yep.
either DIY or divorce attorney. Like, that's all we know. I just, I, I'm not even going to say I hope. I can feel that some of the people listening, like, okay, I'm relieved now. If I'm thinking about divorce or if I'm going through the process, it just gives them a chance to take a breath and know that they're not doing this alone and know that they can do it with a good outcome and
Yep.
have all the professionals that they need to see them through this. So thank you for being a part of that. And thank you for stepping into the presidency of CCDP. This is exciting news, and I am happy for you and congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's it's something I never thought of doing, and I look back of where I was when it was Bill Leeper said, someone said,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, this Colorado Collaborative Group, you ever heard of it?" And from that moment, and just where I am now, and so many great professionals, so much information, so much knowledge, so many people I've been able to help and will be able to help. And that's really the whole point is spread the word, grow the community so that we can help more people. Just understand that there are options and maybe it's not right for everybody, but most people don't know, like you said, most people don't know there's even anything out there between the two. So it's really something that I enjoy doing. It's something that, is just so needed. And it's all part of just, who I am, I guess, at the end of the day. So,
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. And will you tell people the CCDP website one more time before we
Yeah,
close?
ccdp-law.org, Colorado Collaborative Divorce Professionals. And there's some tabs about the process, about the team, and then finding professionals. So if you just go there and browse around a little bit, you'll find great information that will just be a starting point. And that it's the easiest thing too. You can say, hey, I checked out this collaborative group, got some information, and people can say to their spouse, go, what do you think? Can you go look at that and just tell me what you think? Like, it's a real easy introduction of the topic that's very, that's not non-threatening. Hey, I called an attorney who said, that's a little different than, hey, I found this website and talks about how we can do this together.
Yeah, I like that. It's a soft entry. So thank you for that point. I appreciate it.
It's a great
But
resource, though. Thank you.
thank you so much for your time. And I just really appreciate who you are as a human being. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Misty.
All right. Until next time, you guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.